I think I've mentioned before in these podcasts, I have a glass sunroom on the back of my house. It's not very optimal for putting audio into. I could put speakers, but they'd have to go where the speakers can go, not where the layout says that they have to go. And that's what a lot of this new technology is all about. It's about understanding the relationship between space and perception. And I think it's a very, very exciting area that's going to have a lot of applications, not just at the crazy high end, but yeah, and just a lot of modern properties.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Phil Hinton, and joining me for this video, we're going to look back at 2024, the best products that we've seen. And joining me is Martin and Matt, regular reviewers. Also joining me from Eisengruber is Neil Davidson. From Cedia is Steve Carter, and our hi-fi editor, Ed Selley, is also on the panel today. But first, before we get into the subject, here's a message from our sponsor, MPB.
The power to tell a story is in us all. The power to change the way we feel, our understanding. Change the rules, how we see ourselves. Provoke. Change history. Together, let's change the bigger picture. Change access. Put camera gear in more hands and keep the story going. Buy, sell, and trade used camera gear. MPB.
And our thanks to MPB for sponsoring the show. So let's get into it. We've got people from all over the AV industry, as well as hi-fi with Ed. 2024, it's been another spectacular year because I still think I'm in January. We're actually in December. It's flown by as years do these days, but we've seen lots and lots of things in the industry, lots of events that have been happening throughout the year. We started with CES. I've looked at the usual TVs and so on, but let's go to Matt, because Matt is the most infrequent of the panel here, basically because Matt has a real job as well as doing the AV side of things. What's been your highlight AV-wise 2024?
Oh, receiver side, I'd have to say that Denon getting shipped to my house was pretty nice at A1H. That was really nice. Really good to finally get my hands on some direct. So got to mess around with all the direct room correction. Spent quite a bit of time doing comparative things with that, between that and Odyssey. So that was really nice. It's really good to see they're not the only. I think they started to set a trend. So the whole pinning people off each other. So I think JBL has done a similar thing where they've got their own room correction, but then also offer direct. So it's really good to see that. I thought that was a really good trend to see, the dual purpose room correction, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah, and moving into 2025, and for those who maybe don't know what you cover, so you cover high-end speakers, 5.1 packages and above, and obviously a lot of the higher-end components. What is it that you're looking forward to in 2025? What do you think is going to be the big trend?
I think there's going to be more focus around, so if I look at what Turnoff's doing with waveforming and some of the stuff that's around the room correction, I think that's where it's going to go. I think people are going to start to figure out the low end on that a little bit more. So I think that's going to get flushed out. I think that's going to trickle its way down to us mere mortals that can't afford that kind of stuff. So I think that the likes of Dirac, which I think there was an interesting move. I think I saw one of the top individuals from them has actually been acquired by JBL. So I think there's a personnel change there. So that's going to be interesting for the industry. So yeah, I think there's going to be more to do with room correction. I think we saw an interesting space on the speaker side around that linear LCR that I covered from Crix. I think that is going to be another thing. These big tellies are coming, and now I think the audio is going to follow quite quickly. So I think there'll be a lot of interesting products and possibly a creation of maybe a new soundbar-esque category.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm sure we'll come back to Neil on this one as well, because it's definitely a solution to a problem that could be coming. I'm going to go to Martin first of all. Martin, again, you're a reviewer for AVForums. You've looked at everything from £99 soundbars up to many thousands of pounds worth of power amps and so on. So through the year, what's been your highlight?
Well, actually, something that I just mentioned on the awards podcast was the Kaleidoscape Strato V movie player, which has come much more within reach of the many rather than just the high net worth individuals. And the idea that you can play out these extreme high quality files at arguably are better than the data on a Blu-ray disc is quite fantastic, with file sizes up to 120 gigs. And I absolutely loved playing around with this for the time that I had it. And like I said, price-wise, it's just become much more manageable and isn't now just a luxury of the rich.
Okay. And your predictions for 2025, what do you see coming?
Well, I would like to see some more innovation with soundbars, actually. I'd like to see some more innovation with respect to the way that they actually get immersive audio into the living room. I haven't really been necessarily convinced thus far. Some manufacturers seem to be getting hold of it quite well, Sony being one manufacturer in particular. But I would like to see compact systems that really can deliver that immersion that we keep getting promised.
Okay, excellent. We'll see if that happens. Let's move to Ed. Ed, the world of two-channel is encroaching on AV more and more. We've got eARC now available in most hi-fi amplifiers, and people downsizing or coming into the hobby and finding out that they can plug their TV into a soundbar or a stereo speakers or a stereo amplifier and so on. So what's been your highlight of 2024 and what's your predictions for next year?
I've already done some sort of specific hi-fi related ones in our separate podcast. Sorry, there we go. I can actually hear myself now. But I thought I would, in terms of my highlight, rather than one specific product, this year I've tested more things that have just worked. Sorry, I'm just going to move this cat. That have just worked than in the last 4 or 5 years. We had this phase where stuff I was testing was getting more complicated, more sophisticated and cleverer, but it wasn't necessarily ticking all the same boxes in terms of it just coming out the box and doing those things naturally. This year, just the number of things where it does a mind-blowing number of different items, but it does them all without any of it requiring me to phone up someone or actually read the manual, God forbid, or look at YouTube. It just works. And this is brilliant news for an industry which, you know, if it's not careful, can be almost willfully obstructive in how stuff goes together. You know, considering, oh yeah, we've got it into the product. It's impossible to use, but we've got it in there, so it's fine. It matters. It doesn't matter. We've moved past that. So rather than me saying, oh, specifically, I tested this and it was amazing, it's just the number of things I've tested where all of the bells and whistles have rung and whistled exactly as they were supposed to do. My prediction feeds on from there. So again, I've already done some predictions, some positive, some negative, and some involving Donald Trump earlier in the podcast. But I think this is going to be something that continues. I mean, I've tested a streamer at under £400 that has a moving coil phono stage this year. And that was so outside the realms of possibility that I didn't even predict that earlier in the year. We're just seeing this confluence of capability and functionality happening across multi-channel and two-channel, where there is and there will always be a role for specialist boxes. But if you don't want specialist boxes, if you don't want multiple boxes, multiple sockets, a panoply of items, the industry seems to be better geared to avoiding you needing it than has been the case for years and years and years. It feeds into what you were saying about two-channel and multi-channel blurring. And I mentioned this earlier. I've got a two-channel product in for test at the moment that has the option to become multi-channel via wireless rear loudspeakers. And I don't think that's the last of that I'm going to see in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. So again, the margins were already blurred and they're only going to get blurrier. But it doesn't fill me with dread in the same way that it might have done a couple of years ago, because not only do I think that this rate of technological sort of integration is going to increase, it's going to increase at the same time as actually making use of it and it working reliably for the vast majority of people in who buy it is just going to get better and better and better. I mean, I read Matt and Martin's reviews about product with what now counts as breathtakingly sophisticated room optimization software. And the thing that stands out is that at no stage did they say, after rebooting everything, shouting at someone who was within range and restarting all over again, I got it to work. I mean, it might be that they're just lying and they hide all this away, but I don't think that they are. I think it all just functions better. And this is absolutely critical for our industry's ongoing survival in a world where most other things just work better. So we need this. It's a prediction that I'm making both in expectation and also in hope.
Okay, and before we move on to the professional world of AV, TV is where I spend most of my time, sat in front of a TV reviewing them, and we've seen some real progress this year from a number of manufacturers, and especially a confidence now with HDR. I think there's been, a little bit of trouble bringing that to market. Each manufacturer has its own idea of tone mapping and how they're going to handle. We've seen the market calm down a little bit. We're now at 1,000 nits in terms of mastered content, and I think the manufacturers are now starting to settle into that and understand what that means for them. We're going to move to 4,000 nits. Sony are definitely pushing that with their grade A monitors moving into studios, and I think we will see that in future years. And as time goes on, but at the moment, I do think there's this confidence. Video processing's got so good now. And one of the big issues I've had this year with our awards was actually picking the winners. You are talking about tiny details between a lot of these flagship OLED TVs now, and even mini LED has really come on leaps and bounds in the last year as well, thanks to processing, thanks to drivers on backlights that can now control more mini LED zones and more algorithms that are clever in terms of how they put that image up on screen without blooming, without the usual issues that we see with LCD TVs. So there's been a lot of progress this year, a lot of great progress. And you as a consumer are getting a fantastic TV. No matter what price point you're coming in, whether it's a TCL or a Hisense, you're getting really good quality, you're getting really good value for money. The processing might not be as polished as the best on the market, but you're definitely getting a lot for your money these days. And in terms of screen sizes, a 98-inch TV for £2,000, who saw that coming? Certainly not ultra short throw projector manufacturers anyway. So we've seen some really big changes there, and it's great if you're in for a TV at the high end, mid range, or even at the entry level. You're getting really good quality. You're getting lots of features, and as Ed says, things work. That's another thing. Failures are a thing of yesteryear. You're not seeing as many dud products or that many differences between panels. It used to be you'd buy a TV in the same product line and no three of them would look the same. That's not the case. Filmmaker mode and other industry efforts have really vastly improved that. So in terms of product, I think we're really at a golden time for TV. I think there's lots of great TVs out there. There's manufacturers starting to trust themselves a little bit with innovation as well. So LG are pushing things again. Samsung coming in with QD OLED and really disrupting the OLED market. And then Sony coming in with a mini LED TV that, quite frankly, I would sit and watch films in the dark on that TV, and for it being mini LED, there would have been time in the past I would have said, no, thank you, I'll move on. But, we're getting a fantastic product. So for me, it's been a great year. The highlight of the year is great product. In terms of predictions for next year, I'm going to stick my neck out. I think some manufacturers are going to listen to the enthusiast market, and we're going to get TVs where they drop the multi-channel sound. And just have the best panel available if you want just the best panel. I think it'll be niche, but I do think that's an area that we will see growth. I know Neil was going to smile at this. 21:9 TVs. I do think that we could start to see that market again for the consumer. And I think that will be driven by Apple. Some of the things that they've been doing, and Neil highlighted this in previous podcasts. And again, there's a certain Dutch manufacturer who has done it in the past and who may be persuaded to try that again. It'll all come down to panel and panel manufacturer, and manufacturing and so on. But that's my long shot, is 21:9 TVs, but it could be a thing. Right. So let's move to the pro side of things. Neil, let's come to you. What's been your highlights of the year, first of all?
I think it's been an interesting year, Phil, and listening to you guys speak as well. I think for me, a highlight has been there's so much more competence in the products that are available. The blur between what was high end and what's normal now is very, very different. That may sound like a weird highlight to say, but I really feel that that's important. That people can see the way that these things bridge together, and I think that has forced a lot of higher end companies to try and think what is the next wave that separates those two things. And I think everyone would agree that one of the ways that people have tried to do that in this industry is more is more subs, more channels, more everything. And I think that we've kind of reached the point where more is not even possible now, because what if I've put a speaker on every single surface of my room? I can't put more speakers in there. If my TV is 120 inches in diagonal, it's not a lot more space to put those things in. So that kind of brings me to what I'm looking for next year, which is I think that we're going to see a shift away from more is more to being much more focused again on the experience. Okay. If I pick up on something that Martin said, Martin spoke about sound bars and innovation in the way that sound is used in space. So I can tell you that we have spent the last 6 months very hard at work on how sound is used in space and how an ambience of a space and an environment can be completely changed through the use of sound. And what I'm very much looking forward to is letting people experience this amazing new technology that we've got that really will transform the experience of a space acoustically, experience-wise. I don't even know what the word is for it. The sense of ambience that you get from the space, but then also how the technology is integrated into the playback of media. Now, I think I've mentioned before in these podcasts, I have a glass sunroom on the back of my house. It's not very optimal for putting audio into. I could put speakers, but they'd have to go where the speakers can go, not where the layout says that they have to go. And that's what a lot of this new technology is all about. It's about understanding the relationship between space and perception. And I think it's a very, very exciting area that's going to have a lot of applications, not just at the crazy high end, but and just a lot of modern properties.
And Neil, just to clarify what you're talking about there, just so we understand what you're saying. So what you're talking about is not necessarily a home cinema or a listening room or anything. You're talking about a space within. It could be the home, it could be an office, it could be the dentist reception, whatever. But you're talking about the ambience and using sound and how you get that in there to change the feel, or
so precise. Yeah, precisely that. So we've started to use this term immersive environments in our business, right? Because we used to speak about a home cinema, and then you would speak about a bedroom, and then you would speak about a doctor's office. And on the surface, they seem like completely different things. And of course, the application of what goes on within them is completely different, unless you have very strange bed habits, but let's not get into that whole thing. But if you actually look at how you can apply technology within those spaces, well, a home cinema, there's video, there's immersive audio. But then if you take that same sort of platform and you move that into the dentist's, funnily enough, I was at the dentist with my son earlier on today, and we were complaining because there was a TV in very nice reception that wasn't switched on. That could have been playing some ambient waves or whatever else like you've seen with us before. But with some audio that would move around the room, it would relax you before you went into that scary experience of the dentist and so on. It's actually the same technology platform, just applied in a way that's appropriate to the application of the space, as opposed to trying to see them as completely different things. And that's been a really, really important kind of development for us as a company, but driven really by the products that some really very clever people are bringing to the marketplace. I mean, previously, if you wanted a speaker to sound like it was coming from the front left corner of the room, well, you had to put a speaker in the front left corner of the room. But now we can kind of glue 3 speakers together to make it sound like that is where the sound is coming from. And it's very convincing. It's not just like panned or anything like that. It has all types of crazy processing going on to it. And I think that that changes a lot, not just for high end, and we've spoken about that, but more normal projects. People might be surprised to hear, or maybe not, you know. Everyone knows how much real estate and houses and all that type of stuff cost these days. Even your very high end clients are aware of those types of things. And also tastes change, you know, a kitchen, a dining room, a seating area, those things all kind of merge together now. And the way that the technology allows you to change the experience and zoning of those spaces is really, really important and very, very interesting compared to what's gone before, which is just play more speakers at you.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm interested to find out a bit more about this. So that's for next year.
That's for next year. Yes, absolutely.
We will dig into that. Right. Let's move to Steve. Steve from Cedia. Just very briefly for listeners or viewers who are maybe not aware of who Cedia are, give a quick recap of who Cedia are, and then what your highlights have been, Steve.
Okay, so a quick recap. Cedia are a trade association, global trade association for the smart home industry. So our members are supplying and fitting smart home technologies into homes at various levels across the industry. So it could be anything from standard security to, you know, a high net worth individual with, you know, the type of LA home that you can imagine, or a conventional 3-bed semi-detached that needs some security, some lighting, some data networking, etc., and maybe even a distributed audio space within that within that environment. So yeah, we represent all those types of members, giving them support with education primarily. But yeah, that's what we do. And then highlights, I would say most of mine I have to base around experiences, to be honest, and around things that have happened at the various events that I've attended. So whether that be at ISE, just to echo Matt's point, it's been quite interesting to see what's been happening with base management over the last couple of years, and how that's now going to start filtering down. So I've seen at the higher end, the various different manufacturers that have come out with their versions of base management and room correction. But then also at the other end of it, I can now start seeing applications coming through from what I class as a more consumer-led products that will be coming through. So for the next 2 years, I can honestly say we're going to see more of that. But then to look at, to echo most people's points here in terms of interoperability and technology, considering what our members normally do, the challenge of over many years has been, you know, a different protocol brought out by a different manufacturer then meant that you were locked into a specific manufacturer. I think the interoperability with the advances of IP has now ensured that the products are doing something really, really well together. So now what it now boils down to is what an integrator can do with those products for an end user. So you're now not restricted by the products per se, but more on how the implementation of those products. There's no bad speaker system. There's no bad control systems out there. It's how they're implemented within a particular environment. And there are consumers that, most of our listeners, I would assume, that would want to do it for themselves. But then you have the other consumers who are interested in having those types of products, but don't have the knowledge or the time, more importantly, to actually put those products together. With the current range of products that are available, I feel that we're going to see more of a push from integrators on applying and giving a more diverse service, whether it be from the installation perspective or, more importantly, from the maintenance perspective as well. When you look at 2025, so we're going to see a growth in that market, to be honest.
Excellent. Well, we're really looking forward to the new year. Obviously, we're going to kick things off with CES and so on. But my thanks to the panel today. Thanks, guys, for all the work that you do with us here at AVForums and for coming on the podcast. It is appreciated. It's great being able to share your knowledge and experience with our viewers and listeners. So thank you very much. And that's it for this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.